running back busts. Heath, you got Saquon Barkley and James Robinson on your bust list. Barkley as RB7, Robinson as RB25, going late round 5, almost the end of round 5, 59th overall in a 12-team league. Let's start with Barkley. Your bust case is just health or anything else?
It's partially health. It's partially how the Giants could respond to health. Barkley was obviously awesome as a running back. As a receiver on a per target basis, he was pretty close to average, even in his good years. I'm concerned, especially with the talk we're getting, what they're planning on doing early in the year, that they're just not planning on featuring him as much as they did back in 2018. And that Barkley's 15 to 17 touch per game guy instead of a 20 touch per game guy on an offense that's really bad and doesn't score touchdowns.
Yeah. So when would you feel comfortable taking him?
I am not taking Saquon Barkley in round 1.
Wow.
And I know that's out there.
Yeah, I like
you got to have some kind of hot takes on a bus show.
I don't agree with it, but I like it. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think the thing about Barkley is he's going to go in round 1. It's a question of, is he going in the top 7 picks? And so, again, we keep getting a lot of peeks behind the curtain. Our magazine draft that we just did, he went 7th overall. And that was behind McCaffrey, Cook. See if I remember it correctly. McCaffrey, Cook, Kamara, right?
Yep, I took Kamara.
4th was...
I think
Zeke.
He was 5th.
4th was... No, I took Zeke at 6. 4th was Zeke. 5 was Taylor. I took Henry 6. And then Barkley went 7.
And I would also take Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Joe.
This is half PPR, by the way.
Yeah.
Wait, the draft we just did is half PPR?
Yes.
And that one counted. And that one counted.
When did you not know that?
The entire time.
I mean, we did the same draft for our first edition of the magazine. We didn't change the scoring format from that one.
You haven't changed it for 3 years, have you?
No, I do change it.
Oh, okay.
I did
PPR last year.
It was PPR last year, yes. But I said in the chat room, this by the 6th pick. By the way, just a reminder, this is half PPR.
I think the only thing I may have done differently was taking Derrick Henry 3rd instead of Kamara. Other than that, I wouldn't have changed a thing, but that's pretty funny.
The best thing was he didn't realize that he drafted Jalen Hurts also, Heath. And he took Rodgers, and I was giving him a hard time. Like, why would you take 2 quarterbacks in an analyst draft? Like, there's so many guys available. Like, what are you wasting?
I knew I took Hurts.
No, you didn't.
Oh, yes, I did. I swear. I knew when I took Rodgers, I knew I had a quarterback. I just didn't quite feel so secure with Jalen Hurts, so I wanted a second. Wow. Okay. Anyway, that's Barkley. So James Robinson.
I don't think James Robinson's ADP on NFC is actually indicative of what is real.
It's crazy.
But I don't think there's people going to NFC and just burning money and drafting James Robinson as a joke either.
He went
those drafts are money drafts.
He went 66th in the draft we just did.
That makes him a sleeper to me.
Yeah, he's running back 25 currently by NFC ADP, and if that's the case, then I don't see how the ETN's not a bust. Like, if he justifies that, I have a hard time believing that the Jags are going to have 2 running backs that are top 25 options, and the current coaching staff just took one of them in the first round.
So you think Robinson should go later?
Yes, that's why I put him on the bust list.
But I was confused. And Jamie, you think what?
I think if you can get him in the 30s at his position and somewhere after round 6 is fine.
That's what I put him on the list. I get that, Heath. Okay, but Jamie said something about him being a sleeper. Where is he a sleeper?
I just told you, anything after round 6, I think he kind of gives you some sleeper appeal.
All right, round 7, yeah, round 7, round 8, but his current ADP is round 5.
5-6, yeah. Right.
He's in this. It's like what I said about Ryan Tannehill. He's kind of in this weird spot, of there's no category for him. The ADP that we're typically working off of, Heath is right. He's a bust if that's where people are actually drafting him. But we just haven't seen that in the drafts that we do. that he's going that high. And I'm sure, Heath, you've done a lot of best ball drafts. Where is he typically going in those formats?
Not that high is what I've seen.
Right. So it's just, the ADP we're looking at is he's going too high.
Let's do Jamie's running backs. David Montgomery is going 35th overall since May 1st, RB 19. And Kareem Hunt, RB 23, 54th overall. Big gap between RB 19 and RB 23, by the way.
As there should be.
Yeah. David Montgomery, Jamie, as a third, fourth round pick.
He was awesome last year. Was the guy that, I think if you were in the David Montgomery camp when he got drafted by the Bears 2 years ago, you were like, hell yeah, this could be a star. And he lived up to the billing. But the schedule was great. The competition was gone. And he took full advantage of it. The schedule obviously is not going to be as favorable over the course of the season. Tariq Cohen is back to ruin him in pass catching situations, potentially. Damian Williams, if he makes the team, is going to ruin him in both categories, running and catching the ball, potentially. So David Montgomery is somebody, like I said, I just don't find myself drafting him. The earliest I would take him is the fourth round. And again, we're splitting hairs here because he's at the end of the third. But I just don't see myself drafting a lot of David Montgomery. Where Montgomery goes is where I typically take wide receivers. And then for Kareem Hunt, as we saw last year, was awesome when Nick Chubb was out. When Nick Chubb came back from his injury, Kareem Hunt disappeared. And, I just don't know if he's going to get that type of workload consistently to draft him as a starting fantasy running back. As a flex option, again, splitting hairs, I'm fine with it. But I'm not drafting him in the first 5 rounds, especially in anything but PPR.
Heath, how do you feel about Hunt? That was one of your favorites last year.
Yeah, and I have an emotional attachment to him that's hard to let go of. But this is pretty close to where I generally start thinking about him. I think I took him in round 6 of a draft recently. Round 5 is maybe just a smidge too high. I do like the fact that I still expect if Nick Chubb plays 17 games that Hunt's going to be a starting flex. I don't think he'll be a starting running back. I think he'll be a starting flex. And I do think if Chubb goes out for the year, Hunt has league-winning upside, and it's hard to value a player like that. It's hard to judge the percentages, but I like Hunt in round 6. I don't really care too much in round 5. I would rather take Kareem Hunt than James Robinson for sure, and they're 5 picks apart in ADP right now.
I totally agree with everything he said. I agree with. If something happens to Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt's an absolute monster. But it's like the same thing, we say about Tony Pollard, and the draft capital is completely different. So Pollard won't play as much as Hunt will with the starter healthy. But the Browns kind of showed you what they felt about Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt when Chubb came back from the injury, and it wasn't exactly very pleasing.
Would you guys take a Broncos running back over Kareem Hunt and or James Robinson?
I would take both Broncos running backs over Robinson right now. I would take Hunt over both Broncos guys right now. But if you tell me that Javonte Williams wins the job in training camp, then, come August, I would take Javonte Williams over Kareem Hunt.
I think I agree with all that.
I think if I told you Javonte Williams won the job in training camp, he'd end up in the 4th, not necessarily for you, but he'd be a 4th round pick, maybe even earlier. People would be pretty excited.
I also think it comes down to the build of your team. If you're staring in round 6, for example, at Broncos running back or Kareem Hunt, and you've already taken 2 running backs, and you still want to take a running back in that range, you might shoot for a little bit higher upside. Not to say that Kareem Hunt doesn't have it, but he needs the injury to have it. Whereas Javonte Williams doesn't necessarily need the injury.